Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and today another great topic for you. We're going to discuss adrenal dysfunction and what are the signs and symptoms that you may have some level of adrenal dysfunction. And more specifically, I'm going to give you 5 categories. And if you fall into these categories, that you want to pay special attention and start supporting your adrenal glands. It is those 5 categories where I see most commonly people have adrenal issues. And unfortunately, if we're waiting for the kind of the whole ship to sail, meaning that we're waiting for this is definitive adrenal dysfunction, by the time it gets there, usually it's a 90% dysfunctional situation, folks, and we do not want to go there. So today is going to be some information, some education about how do we recognize, are we having an adrenal dysfunction? I'll describe what those are in just a moment here, and what can we do about it, and really what categories do we need to be super aware of when it comes to adrenal dysfunction. All right, with that being said, folks, keep doing the thing. Keep sharing it out, keep spreading the love. Appreciate the fact that you are sharing it with your coworkers, your families, etc. How do we know? Because we're getting more and more people to comment, to look at it. So keep doing your thing if you would. If you haven't yet, give us a 5-star review. That would be awesome. If you write some good things in there, that even helps us more. All right. With that being said, let's dive right into the show today. And today, again, are your adrenals becoming dysfunctional at all? So your adrenal glands are these 2 little glands that sit on top of your kidneys. And I would say at least 50% of our population right now, if not more, have some level of adrenal dysfunction, clinical levels, and probably much higher than that. And I'm going to go through probably some of the most classic symptoms, and you'll see they're very wide, they're kind of broad ranged here, and very important that we're paying attention because, again, if we wait for lab work, say you go to your doctor and be like, doc, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm absolutely exhausted. Something must be wrong. And then eventually downstream somewhere, someone says, oh, let's test your cortisol levels. That's one of the hormones, one of the stress hormones that we have that your body produces from your adrenal glands. Let's test that. And they do a simple blood work. And if it shows up too high or too low, it means 90% of the problem's already there. And today, so I want to give you a little insights of what we can do and even some testing that you might want to do if you think you fall into this category. So let's just talk about some of these classic symptoms, because some of you, this is going to open up your eyes and be like, man, I probably need to start to support my adrenals in a very strategic way. All right, fatigue is number 1. So the being tired on a regular basis, getting up, not having a good just let's get up and rip kind of attitude, get up and rip type of energy in your body, that's problematic. I'm not talking about just one time after a long trip, but I'm talking day to day, getting up, feeling fatigued, or that you need to drink a pot of coffee just to get your ball rolling here. All right, so fatigue, brain fog, excessive thinking, which is really often a sign of excessive worry. And this starts to happen when we start to decrease our capacity to manage life in general. We start to have a little bit more worry and the brain doesn't shut off. So what happens is as the cortisol production goes down, this isn't an up thing, goes down, you're not producing it, you have less capacity to handle your stressors. So it keeps you in this constant state of fight or flight. And this is where it gets tricky. Some of the signs that you'll recognize is that you start to have less tolerance for your kids, less tolerance for your spouses. You'll be driving down the road, less tolerant for other drivers, less tolerance in general for incompetence. These are all signs that your body, you are becoming less capable of handling stresses. It's almost like you're sitting right on that edge of that snap and being triggered a little bit too easy. Some other symptoms here. Belly fat. Happens very specifically. And I'm talking about the fat that happens between basically your belly button to your upper thighs. This is very specific fat that starts to accumulate, even though sometimes you're eating a good diet. You may even have some good exercise going on, and yet you're gaining fat. The reason behind this, without going too deep, is that when we have stress, let's just say you have chronic stress, you have a job or your relationship or financial stress, or someone in your family is unwell, and you have this chronic stress taking place, your body is pumping cortisol nonstop because it believes it has to be in fight or flight to handle this stress. And in doing so, when you pump out this cortisol from your adrenal glands, it sends a message to the liver. Hey, liver, we need fuel right now to manage this stress. And what is the fuel? It's sugar. So liver dumps sugar into the bloodstream. Now the challenge is you might just be lying in bed having this stress. And so therefore, it dumps into the bloodstream and your body goes, you can't have all this sugar floating around here. I don't need it in the muscle. So what are we going to do with it? The body releases a hormone called insulin. It grabs onto this sugar and it puts it into the fat cell, even though you haven't changed your diet. So we can have people gaining belly fat. There's often this comes with a little bit of muscle loss as well. So we're going to pay very specific attention to that. Now, sleep challenges, hands down, this is a very important one. Sometimes the low cortisol or actually the low adrenal function will cause sleep disturbances, and sometimes the sleep disturbances will cause adrenal dysfunction. So they go hand in hand. They swing back and forth here. But what it'll often look like is somewhere between the hours of 1 and 3, 1 and 4 a.m. Usually it's a little bit later, that 3 to 4 category. You can't fall asleep. And then all of a sudden, 4 o'clock comes, 4:15, 4:30, boom, you fall asleep, and it might be your deepest sleep of the night. But then unfortunately, boom, you got to get up and go to work, start the day. So that is also a sign. There's one of the symptoms there. Chronic low vitamin D levels on your labs. You see these. Maybe you're even taking supplements, and they're still low. These are signs that we have a cortisol dysfunction in the body, which really means an adrenal dysfunction. Salt cravings are often a sign that you are constantly under stress. Sodium is one of the main nutrients that your adrenal glands need to be healthy. They need it to function on a daily basis. And that is why we find people say, oh, I don't have a bad diet. I just crave something crunchy. Craving salt, folks. How do I know? I'm in that category, 100%. I am very disciplined with my food. I wouldn't say disciplined. I would say that I have really good food strategies. Chips are my downfall because I'm constantly putting my body under stress. There's nothing about corn I particularly like. There's nothing about any of the other good, healthy ones that I particularly like. It is the craving of that crunchy that really comes with the salt, so I can help manage the stressors or the burden that I'm putting my adrenal glands. And you're probably the same way if you crave those crunches and those salts. Chronic pain, fibromyalgia, these are all signs of deficiencies taking place in your adrenal glands. Chronic illness, chronic low immunity. And we're going to get into this a little bit later, but low immunity, you're getting sick. You take a trip. You're the one who gets sick after the trip. You work out too hard. You find yourself getting sick. You have a disruption in sleep. You have to stay in a hotel for one night. Next thing you know, you're getting sick or your body's breaking down. These are all signs that there is some adrenal dysfunction taking place here. Poor exercise recovery. And then another odd one here is you'll have symptoms of being what we call wired and tired simultaneously. You wake up, you're tired all day long. Later in the day, you get your second wind, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And then you start to say, well, I do my most creative work at night. It's because you dumped a bunch of cortisol into your system at the wrong time of day. It shouldn't be there at night. So cortisol should follow the sun, should be high in the morning, low as the day goes. So it should be in that circadian rhythm like that. All right, so those are some of the signs and symptoms. And if you're experiencing any of those, if nothing else, you stop the podcast now, know time to start supporting your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands give you the opportunity to have increased capacity to handle life. They help you handle and manage stress. Stress is not necessarily a bad thing. It is only when it becomes out of balance. And unfortunately, all stress is cumulative. So the stress that you had 10 years ago, maybe you went through a divorce and it was 5, 6, 7 years of hell in your life. That's cumulative stress. Maybe you've had a surgery, folks. The challenge and the big part of it is that we're normalizing our stressors. We normalize the fact that we have this 5G, these things blowing through our brains on a regular basis, all this energy going through our brains. We've normalized the amount of chemicals we're exposed to daily. We've normalized these schedules and we get up running. We're full steam. We get on our phones, get on our emails, we're chasing around work or maybe children or our dogs all day long. And we go all the way to the end of the day, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, full steam and then shut off. And technically, there's nothing wrong with that. And many of us can handle it as long as we stay within balance. What I've discovered clinically and personally is that you can get away with it, meaning this, you can get away with just pushing and grinding and toughing it out. And you get up the next day and do it again. Look at me, I'm fine. Pump your chest a little bit until you're not fine with it. And how do I see the writing on the wall? And this is my question for you right now. If you're getting up and you're grinding and be like, oh, this stuff doesn't bother me. Here's the challenge. Or here's really the question asked. Are you supporting? Are you feeding back the body? Are you giving your body an opportunity to recover, to rebuild, to rejuvenate? Are you feeding your adrenal system? Do you even know what that really means? Are you helping manage the capacity that your body has to handle stressors? All right, with that being said, let me give you the 5 categories. If you fall into any one of these categories, then yes, you fall into the categories of it is time right here, right now for you to start supporting your adrenal glands. All right, category number 1, you have chronic stress. All right. That basically just put all of us into this category. We all do have chronic stressors, some more than others. Remember, those stressors, the primary ones, are going to come somewhere from either your health or someone's health around you. It could be a family member, could be a friend, a dog, could be anything. But chronic stressors, health, your wealth, which is your finances, and this is very stressful for a lot of people, and then also your relationships. And yes, these are the greatest things you're ever going to have in your life is your health, wealth, and relationships. That the best things in life are often very challenging. And therefore, we have a lot of chronic stresses. So work could be challenging, etc. So to minimize or think that we don't have stressors, I'm not talking about just someone who thinks that to admit that I have stress, it means that I'm weak. No, listen, folks, I will tell you this. I put a level of stress on myself that is insane. It's absolutely insane. We have multiple businesses. I have a farm. I go around the country teaching. I have multiple dogs. I have an incredible wife, and I try to keep up with all of it. I love it all. And what I will tell you is this: you can have it all as long as you're giving back at least more than you're taking from your body. And I tried this both ways. I tried just going for it all without necessarily supplying my body with all the tools that it needs to keep up with my brain, with all the aspirations that I have in life. And then what happens when you start to really experience adrenal fatigue? Your aspirations become limited. You start to thinking about, if I just could wake up tomorrow not exhausted, becomes your primary aspiration. And folks, unfortunately, that's a very limited perspective to go through life with. We are built for much more than that. We are built for us to be able to go full tilt, but it does require us to have some level of love and some level of intention and some level of awareness of what we're putting our bodies through and our minds through, so we can counterbalance some of those stressors. And when you do that, I don't know what the limit is. The sky's really the limit when you're willing to do that. And again, I've tried it both ways. I've tried just grinding and just toughing it out and being like, oh, I can handle all of this. That didn't work. It worked for a while until it didn't work. The one X factor I will say for everyone who still thinks that maybe they can just ignore all the writings on the wall, we are aging, folks. And when we age, it means that our ability, our capacity to handle certain things in the past is just different. All right. So category number 1, chronic stress. Category number 2 is poor sleep habits. And again, this could be caused by or as a result of different adrenal issues. So your poor sleep habits can cause adrenal issues, and adrenal issues can cause poor sleep habits. And typically what the challenge will be, either you're wired and tired and inability to fall asleep early, and we'll see that probably 10 to 30% of the time, but the majority of them, it's downstream where now your body's fatigued and you're having a hard time falling asleep, which is this should raise our eyebrows, folks. There's 2 things that every human being should be able to do very good. Everyone, you're a day old, you're 100 years old. Sleeping and pooping should be normalcies for us. And unfortunately, both of those have become big problems. All right, with that being said, so chronic stress, number 1, poor sleep, number 2, low immunity. This is a challenge again. If you start to find yourself breaking down more often, you have things like allergies, you're playing these off. You have things like food sensitivities, you're playing these off. You have things like asthma, you're playing these things off. You get head colds frequently, you're taking more medications, and you're just labeling and blaming all these other things. Folks, this is an inability. This is a lowered capacity. This is a lowered immunity. And when you have a lower immunity, you are putting your adrenal system under more duress. And this is the beginning of a downfall of your entire system breaking down. One of the ways that we recognize this clinically is we see things like your white blood cells on your lab work starting to go low. And your doctor is not going to mention to you when they see low white blood cells, say, are you balancing out your stress? Are you doing anything to help your body recover? Are you addressing the fact that having low white blood cells put more emphasis on your adrenal glands? That's not going to happen. How do I know? I'm in this healthcare system. That's not the conversation. But the moment I see white blood cells low, I recognize that there's a vulnerable person sitting in front of me. And again, I was that human. I had lower white blood cells. If you have labs, we want to make sure you're no lower than 4.5, preferably between 4.5 and 6.5, maybe as high as 7. So low immunity, that's another one. These next two categories and probably take you by surprise a little bit. And ladies, you got to pay close attention to these because these are very specific for you. And these two categories, number one is this: if you're in perimenopause, your first priority, number one, is to address your adrenal glands. Oftentimes people are thinking, well, the hormone category, hormones. I get it. I understand that. But here's the way that your body goes about things. It believes that your stress hormones are more important than your sex hormones. So the moment your stress hormones become compromised, so which is cortisol, think of that as a stress hormone. If you've been running long-term chronic stress for long periods of time between your health, your wealth, your relationships, all of the other things that could be stressing you, your diet, the fact that you have a glass of wine every night, all of those things are stressors. Those are toxins to the human body. So your body addresses those with a stress response. In the event that chronic stress has started to get to the point where you are lowering your total cortisol production, your total cortisol production is going down, your body recognizes that this is a very, very vulnerable situation. So it's going to start to steal your sex hormones so you can make more stress hormones. Your body believes that your stress hormones are more important than your sex hormones. The first one it typically steals is progesterone. So if you start to see hormones going down, we shouldn't just normalize it and be like, oh, well, here we are. I'm at this age. They're going down. Yes, some of that happens with age. But if it's happening earlier in life, the early front part of perimenopause, and yes, folks, we need to address your adrenal system and make sure that it has all the tools that it needs to provide you with an opportunity to handle this thing called life. So your adrenal glands are going to be under more stress. So here's something that I want to say and share with you, but it's real and it doesn't often sit well, but I'm going to say it anyways. That for women, when they go through perimenopause, that your capacity to handle things in life is less. Doesn't mean that you're a better or worse human being. It just means that your capacity to handle stressors is less. And we should acknowledge that for all the women out there and then do everything that we possibly can to be supporting you, and so should you. Now, why is that? Because the simple part of that is this. Your ovaries are going to retire. They're going to be a little bit under stress as they make some changes from producing all the progesterone and estrogen to where they start to stop producing the majority of it. What's going to take place is that your adrenal glands are going to pick up the slack. So not only are they worried about all the duties and job that they have to manage stress, to produce cortisol, produce adrenaline, all of those jobs are still part of what the responsibility of the adrenal glands. And now they also have to pick up the slack of making some progesterone, maybe a little testosterone, maybe some estrogen. So it's doing a double job here. So it means that your ability to handle your stresses is going to be inhibited. So making sure that we support your adrenal glands is a first and foremost, most important thing you do. And again, it can be the and world. Often addressing your adrenals is and. You're dealing with your gut issues and you're dealing with your adrenal issues. You're dealing with hormones and your adrenal glands. You're dealing with whatever it may be, but often it's rarely by itself or it might be your immune system and your adrenals, but often it's going to be needed to be addressed. If you're addressing your hormones without addressing your adrenal system, you're kind of creating a little bit of a storm for your system there. All right, with that being said, so it's chronic stress, it's poor sleep, it's immune response, perimenopause, and last but not least, folks, it's women in postpartum. This is something I wish that all doctors understood. So postpartum, your body's going to need support. It is going to need it. Literally, you're giving up all your hormones. You're giving up your nutrients. And in this moment, your body is depleted. You have a chronic stress issue. You now have a newborn. That's a chronic stressor. I know it's a miracle, but it's also a stressor. You have sleep issues. This is a big issue here because you're sleeping with one eye open at this point. So you have two of the top things here. Your immune system is starting to be depleted because you're not sleeping and you have chronic stress. The hormones will be out of balance. So 4 out of the 5 categories when you're in postpartum are going to be taxing your adrenal glands. And so for my postpartum women, if you're not already, absolutely 100%, whatever you're doing, and support your adrenal glands. This is very, very important for all of you. And it's not that difficult. So let me share with you, we're going to wrap this up in just a moment. Let me share with you a couple things you can do. If you're interested in testing them, you can test them, but it's not through blood work. We usually do what's called an adrenal stress index test. Sometimes you can use what's called a Dutch test, but this is done through saliva. This is the most accurate way for us to fully assess and evaluate what your adrenal glands are doing. What we're looking for is your total production of cortisol and where it is through the course of the day. This is an important part. We'd love to see it high in the morning and dissipate as the day goes. It should follow a very particular rhythm. Then we're also going to look at how that's relating to all of your hormones. So typically what we do in our clinic is we test both simultaneously through saliva, and that is the most accurate way to see how your body's functioning with your hormones and functioning with your cortisol. I'll make sure that's in the notes below. It's not the easiest test to take. And the easy part is that it's at home, but it's a saliva test. We got to fill up these little vials, about 5 vials through the course of the day. So we're measuring throughout the course of the day. And as a result of it, we very specifically can help understand what production of cortisol your adrenal glands are capable of doing. Is it too high, too low? And then it'll also give us a very specific beginning point of strategy in terms of helping support your adrenal glands. All right, the next component of that is making sure that your lifestyle fits. I'm going to give you a couple tips here. This is one, protect your sleep. Circadian rhythm is one of the most important things you can do for creating an ability to adapt to stressors. Go to bed with the dark, get up with the light, always do your best to eat in the light. That's number one. Supporting and protecting your sleep is absolutely important. Make sure that your body is getting good nutrients. If you haven't got rid of the bad guys yet, time to do it. I'm speaking to everyone right now, not just the women in perimenopause or in postpartum. I'm talking to everyone. Alcohol, folks, as you guys know, is a poison. Any way you shake it down, it's a poison to the liver, and then therefore it's a poison to all the cells in the body. And if we're doing this at night, when the body is trying to recover, repair, and rejuvenate our bodies, and yet we're creating a system, or we're creating a stressor that slows all of that down, we're really just kind of beating ourselves up. So at some point, the best that you can, get clean. And then if you've already gotten clean, get cleaner. I'll make sure there's an opportunity. If you want to get tested, you can certainly do that with us. We'd be happy to help you out. I got a couple quick announcements. We'll wrap this up. Many of you that have worked with us before, or listened to our podcast, you know we do an annual cleanse every year. So in January 2026, January 5th, we're kicking off our cleanse. If you've never cleansed before, I would say just give it a shot. Push yourself through a little bit. Is it a little intimidating? I guess it could be. I'm not even going to go as far as in saying that cleansing is easy, but I will tell you it's always beneficial. It is part of flexing the muscle, especially the muscle when it comes about food, that we all need to be flexing a little bit more, because food gives us so much comfort. So it's so easy to ignore the potential damage that food can do. And really what we're going to be emphasizing, not only getting our foods right, that's kind of the easy part, but helping increase the capacity for us to detoxify and lower our blood sugar levels. So we're helping pancreatic support. We're going to make sure that you have plenty of liver support and open up the doors of phase 1, 2, and 3 detoxification, folks. Those are not simple. We're not necessarily improving detoxification by just cleaning up our diet. We have to be very specific with that. So the people that cleanse with us, we're going after it for that 10 or 21 days. So you can do whatever you want. If you've never done a cleanse before, probably 10 days is best for you. If you've done it before, dive right into 21 days. Typically, the people that sign up for a 10-day cleanse, usually day 6, 7, 8, they want to go and they just extend their cleanse farther, because that's usually when you hit your stride and you start to feel amazing. And you start to see things like sleeping better. You start to see like your aches and pains go away. You start to see the brain fog go away. You start to see your skin look a little bit better. And I encourage all of you to give yourself the gift of allowing yourself to, just for at least a moment, to see what it means or feels like when you are going all in for your body and your health. You're worth it. You're very worthy of making sure, or experiencing what great opportunity for health is like and what it's all about. We'd love to have you join us. I'll make sure there's another link for that in a bio below here. And that's on January 5th. There's going to be an early bird special. You can take advantage of that right now. All right. With that being said, folks, keep doing the thing, keep sharing it out, keep spreading the love, and make sure that we're always leveling up our mind, our body, overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.